If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
The world has witnessed about 3 different industrial revolutions, and of course we are currently undergoing the 4th industrial revolution, and of course it is that which involved the use or the application of what we call artificial intelligence. Some people call it machine learning, some people call it a different name, but of course this morning we are talking about the future of workplace and the role that artificial intelligence plays in that particular environment. The current conversation has shifted from maybe to when organizations of different sizes will begin their own automation process. Of course, automation of possibly one part of their operations or the entire, part of their operation. And also on the part of the employees, this has also created some sort of a dilemma for employees to begin to worry as to when they will be replaced by some robot or by some form of automation or something like that. Of course, we are talking about the future of workplace beyond artificial intelligence. And to help us unpack that this morning, I have Tope Ajao in the studio with me, and also I have Edith. Edith will be joining in on the conversation this morning. Again, we are talking about the future of workplace beyond artificial intelligence. Just a little bit about our guest this morning. Is from an organization called the Bluechip. The Bluechip Technologies Limited. Of course, they operate from Nigeria and across sub-Saharan Africa, and they are one of the leading data and analytics company on this continent. Of course, they are doing big things across the continent. He is the Chief Delivery Officer with Bluechip Technologies Limited, and it will be helping us this morning to unpack the topic. Good morning, Mr. Tope.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. All right. Before we get into the conversation proper, I've got your profile here with me, but I want to give you the opportunities to blow your horn by yourself.
All right. So I'm not sure there's any horn to blow, really. It's just that I think I've been privileged to have worked in a number of spaces. Started off my career with an IT company that used to focus on LAN and WAN solutions, local area network and wide area network.
Okay.
And then after that, I moved into the bank. I worked in Guarantee Trust Bank, moved into Bank PHB, before I finally pulled out to join Bluechip Technologies, where I've been for the past 8 years, right? So, and while doing all those things, I've been privileged to have done a number of things, worked on some of the pioneer things that's happened within the space, from fintech, from payments to collections, up until now that I found myself in the data space. And I think we've done a an immense work in terms of delivery around business intelligence, data warehousing, analytics, big data, and the likes. I think what I find most interesting is that the space is evolving, and it's looking very interesting.
Interesting. All right. When you joined, you mentioned that you joined Bluechip Technologies about 8 years ago. 8 years ago, on this part of the world, there was the trend or the conversation around big data or automation wasn't that big of a deal. But of course, in the last 5 years or 4 years thereabout, it has become something that even companies that operate in this part of the world cannot just neglect or pretend as if it doesn't affect them. Has the landscape changed over the last 8 years that you joined Bluechip?
All right, so Bluechip has been in existence for about 12 years altogether right now. Started off as a service integration company where we find out that, okay, you have got this problem around your data. We look at the different tools and then fix the problems that you have got. But as the organization matured, there became a need to, amongst other things, begin to align to some of the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers like Oracle, Microsoft, and IBM, and SAP, and all of them. And what you see play out is that I actually joined Bluechip off to go on to deliver one of the pioneer projects around data, building an enterprise data warehouse and BI platform for 9Mobile. It used to be Etisalat then. And that was at the point. But interestingly, before I joined, the company had done a lot of projects in Zambia and in other places, and had been solving data problems. So in the last decade, I think a lot of things have happened. The interesting thing that you will see around is that a lot more will happen very speedily in this decade. So if it took you X period to get, if it took you maybe 10 years to get to a particular spot, what you will do in the next 10 years won't be that same thing. You probably do double or triple of it. If you think about the GSM revolution, Nigeria didn't start very early, but we've blown up, all right? The numbers are, and I think that's what you see playing out. So for example, people talk about AI, they talk about all sorts of things. Interestingly, Bluechip has implemented some of these things, and we have some of those things playing out in the solutions. And so maybe we have also not done well enough in terms of blowing our horns, if that's the way to put it. So I mean, for some of the banks today, you probably will see them. So if you think about Star 737 for Guarantee Trust Bank, I mean, some of those things started around them being able to see their data, to say that, okay, a lot more people are coming to our banking halls, and the transfers they're doing are majorly maybe about 20,000 naira or thereabout. Now, for you to have come up with that, it probably wasn't because you went to a vigil and you went to pray overnight and then God showed you something. Or you obviously looked at data and you saw some trends and you said, okay, guys, can we give this a shot? All right. Another way to have looked at it is, okay, if I found this, why don't I build a mobile app for them? All right. But the truth is, how many people at that time had mobile apps? So the best thing was probably to put it on, to do USSD, which today they've led that revolution very, very well. And you've seen amazing things. Interestingly, the data warehouse platform today was built by Bluechip Technologies, right? So it's interesting to see some of these things. You guys have done
big things.
Oh yeah, we have done big things.
Okay, so Africa is described as mobile first, mobile only, and mobile poly currently. And I just look at the entire landscape, and you speak about data and, of course, organizations across the continent and how they begin to look into their data and begin to come up with innovative solutions as to how to better, improve their operations and all of that. What are some of the prevailing challenges that organizations are facing in this part of the world, from Nigeria and across the continent?
So what you see most times traditionally is that most of the data projects across the globe fail. All right. So there's first of all the principle of project management, which is that most projects fail because of poor requirements management.
I see.
But beyond that, what you see, especially in our part of the world, is that first of all, if you want to do data, people just think about technology. All right. So you think about, I want to use this technology to do this. And even when you begin to think about innovation itself, it's not really technology innovation that is most important. What is more important is value innovation. So what business value do I want to derive from this journey I want to go on. And what you'll see is because it's still humanly driven to a very large extent. So if the culture of the organization hasn't changed, all right, you can be sure that no matter how much you've spent, and you will see that a lot of organizations in the last 3 years have been talking about digital transformation, digital initiatives, digital this, digital that. But if you look at it in terms of intrinsic value, how many of them have really gained intrinsic value? So the key thing for what that we have seen play out is, first of all, you need to look at it holistically.
I see.
All right, you need to start small.
The entire organization.
Exactly. You need to think enterprise-wide, but start small on a small scale.
Yeah.
And I've also learned that it's not something you can do by yourself. So first of all, a bank is a bank. You're not a debtor. Look for a partner that you can fight and you can fight with. All right. So that's very key, because what you see is that even after you have finished the project, you can't move it forward. Why? Because you don't have a structure to operationalize it. All right. So our approach to getting some of those things done is largely very different. So what we do is, our approach from day one is to make sure that we integrate a culture as part of the people that we work with, and then put a structure in place to be able to operationalize it.
Let me stop you there. You just mentioned people, and of course that brings us to actually the DNA of this conversation, talking about workplace and the workforce. Currently, there are several areas where we have seen artificial intelligence being applied, when it comes to workplace, when it comes to recruitment and onboarding of staffs, when it comes to on-the-job training, when it comes to augmented workforce, that's what they call it, and also surveillance in the workplace, talking about productivity and, of course, time tracking, and also the last one, workplace robot. With what you guys have done, what have you seen in terms of application of AI in the workplace or management of workforce?
All right. So, see, there's a foundation that you need to first of all build, and some of these things are the journey. It's a long journey, and you need to start small. Some organizations have started, and they are making a lot of progress.
What is that foundation?
All right. So the key thing, first of all, is because all this is built around data, right? And if it's built around data, the foundation of data management will be data governance.
And that also that's where machine learning also comes to play, because we have to study those data to be able to identify patterns.
Correct.
So I'm just
So what that means is that if you don't organize that data properly, or if the quality of your data is bad, you first of all in deep problems. So I remember there was a time that my wife told me that she used to run and I can't mention the name of the bank for obvious reasons, right? And she will get SMS alerts of another customer. All right, and she will sometimes get the statement of another customer.
Wow.
All right, and this was maybe about 8-7 years. All right, because something was done in error.
Wow.
All right, so if somebody else's details come to me, then there's a big problem. All right. So first of all, organizations shouldn't also jump the gun in a bid to be the first to launch a product. Should first go back and make sure that the data is fine, because now Europe started something around GDPR. We have the Nigerian version of it. All right, and data is powerful. All right, if data gets into the hands of wrong people, then it'll be a big problem. The same way oil used to be the big deal, right? And then if people were busting oil pipelines to be able to do all sorts of things, people will attempt to do the same thing with data. All right, so if that foundation around data governance, especially around the quality of your data, there's cybersecurity, there are threats around it and all that. So if all that is not sorted out, and in data governance, what do we do for organizations? We help them build a structure around how they will govern the entire their data management platforms. Data is fluid, it keeps moving, but if you don't have something that helps you to govern it, it will ultimately put it into trouble. So for example, somebody else's statement, somebody in the organization that shouldn't have an access will have an access to what they shouldn't have. So that's the foundation, right? But even when we go to do this project, so think about it. If it used to what we've seen around is that 80% of the people that want to even have insights, they spend 80% of their time trying to prepare the data. So they probably don't have more than 20% of that time to study the insights. So, but what we do when we move into some of those environments is we reverse it. You don't spend 80% preparing data anymore. We automate it.
So that is one AI.
Exactly, which takes you to where where the subject of the conversation today around. We will keep on automating things. All right, whether we like it or not, we will do a lot of automation. I think Amazon has done very well. You have to give it to them. Yeah. So Amazon at some point wanted to automate, all right, introduce AI into how they into their retail part of the business
experience.
Especially even the stacking. Also, how do you pack the projects into the warehouses and all those things? All right, what did they do? They realized that these machines were going to take over the jobs of humans.
Yeah.
So they started training the humans.
To do what?
All right, so they trained them to be able to do something else within the business.
Okay.
All right.
Now you're getting to the meaty part of this whole thing, because that's actually where I want to explore. An organization like Amazon, they identified that, and of course they saw some sort of moral dilemma right there. I mean, what would inform their decision to be able to train the human and not just let them go?
All right, so it boils back to one thing really. I learned very early in life listening to a few people, and I realized that at the base of leadership is care.
I see.
All right, so if I truly value my employees, I won't throw them out just like that. You hear organizations say I'm downsizing, or I'm right sizing, I'm up, whatever name you give to it, right? Exactly. Whatever name you give to it, the first thing first is what are the principles that guide us in doing those things?
That's it.
All right. Amazon realizes that I'm going to introduce this. It will give me XYZ value. However, these people, I also identify a number of them that can do other things. So, for example, those robots will probably need to be operated.
Yeah.
All right. So I can also, someone that's already familiar with the system, I can translate to you by way of impacting knowledge, just knowledge. All right. And that way you easily, all right, begin to do something else. So when we get into organizations, when we even go to build the basic analytics for them, there's no doubt about it. Some of the people that typically used to do stuff will not be able to do those things because we'll automate it. So what we do, all right, is there are new skills that they need to acquire. And those skills we already have them.
Don't they look at it like the bad guys?
Yeah, so sometimes it's like that.
I'm sorry.
I mean, in reality, I mean, sometimes it's as if you're taking other people's jobs. But guess what? So for example, if there's a tool that you typically don't have today that you used to integrate to a data system to pull data.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that currently, right?
Yeah.
Some people need to begin to manage it. All right. So what you can do is easily take a few people within the organization to start doing that. There are multiple layers in doing this thing. So you can translate people from what they do today typically. All right, because you're now centralizing the system.
Yeah.
All right, because you're centralizing all those things that we used to do in silos no longer apply anymore. So you take that chunk, maybe 100 staff, maybe 50 staff, and redeploy them.
You're removing redundancy and all
exactly.
that.
Exactly. So it also saves the organization money, because at the end of the day, I need to save myself.
I was actually going to talk about that, because one of the major, reason why organizations go after these, eventually is to improve their bottom line, which will mean that they're able to cut cost, operational expenses, be able to reduce it as much as possible. And in many instances that I've seen, there is no way somebody would just lose their job. It might not be a lot of people, and there's no how much you try as an organization, somebody will still lose their job. I mean, how do I make sure I'm not that guy?
All right, so now the next thing is, what do I begin to learn?
Okay.
All right, and if you go back to Amazon, I read somewhere maybe about a week or two ago that Amazon is now speaking to different organizations to say, see, I know I'm going to lose a lot of staff, right? But I know that these guys are good. Okay, why don't we have an agreement? I'll train them to meet your requirement of your resource requirements. So if I give them the proficiency, they can fit into your organization. All right, and it goes back to how much value I place on the life of my employees, right? So yes, I can say there's no way people will lose their jobs, but the truth is there are new jobs that will be created. So think about it. When the personal computer was introduced, all right, it meant that a lot more people could afford computers. Exactly.
Has to go.
Now there are people that need to fix those things when they go bad. Remember, there are now companies that they needed to start making semiconductors that you put into those computers.
Yes.
And they needed huge human intervention in different warehouses. And so a lot of companies started doing that. So new jobs are created with the introduction of this thing. What it means is that those new jobs require new skills. What are those new skills? Can we start building those new skills? The best place to have gone would probably be for especially our kids that are coming up or younger people. Go back to the uni and start understanding that these things are going to change and then start building them. For those that are already in employment, all right, you can start building them. And if I really treasure these guys, I'm not going to leave them. There's a principle around the bottom 10. All right, the bottom 10 in organization.
10. Can you explain that more?
It's a principle of management saying that the bottom 10% of staff that are not doing well in terms of performance, you will ask them to go. All right, so there's some of those principles that exist in some organizations. What do you do in such scenarios? I'm not throwing you away just not because you can't do anything. It's the principle of the organization that you bottom 10 will go. But what do I do with the bottom 10? I just throw them in the wings? No, I'm just saying that, okay, these are the things that we can do for you. So when I read about Amazon, what they were doing, and I think they already spoke to a company, Siroski or something, in the US to say, let's have a partnership. We can give you X number of staff with these competencies because we know that these are competencies you need. So the question is, how many organizations will go that length?
I admire what Amazon is doing, and of course I commend them for that. But also, if I'm one of the guys in that other organization, of course I'm high in that particular role and I want to get promotion to get there, and you go to Amazon and put another guy. Isn't Steve there some sort of, I'm sorry, because these are reality. These are things that is happening on a daily basis. Somebody is hiring, is looking forward to, being promoted to that. An organization like Amazon is bringing somebody from outside, and this person's dream is, probably almost thrown off the roof or of the window or something. What else can we do?
The reality is that there's not so much that we can do.
It's a dilemma.
It's a challenge, all right, but it's not the end of the world. I just gave you an example of the introduction in the third revolution, the introduction of PCs. People said that their jobs were going to be taken away. Those jobs didn't all go away. Even when some went away, the new ones
were created.
Now the question is, am I willing to learn? So think about it. Typically, today everybody talks about open source technology. And the companies are moving away to open source technologies. All right. Now the question is, if you don't learn how to implement. So, for example, if our customers are saying we want open source technologies and we don't have that competence, what happens? We lose those opportunities. There are some other companies that are probably learning about it. So what we saw very early is that companies are going to move to some companies wanted to move to open source technology. So we also built that competence to say that, okay, in case there are customers that says I want open source, then we should be able to give them that value.
So there are new jobs that will be created that will eventually solve the problem for us. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I had to be able to price you.
It's okay.
Another one, just bringing it home right here in Nigeria, actually. You have some banks as your clients, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, in the past, we have seen banking, staffs, losing their jobs, especially drivers. They lost their jobs, and after that, they're really not suitable for any other organization apart from driving or something. Most of them, eventually go and drive Uber, and particularly I've seen that trend, and I just don't know. How can these people begin to, in a way, add new skills, or I don't know, how can they repurpose their skills, and what do they need to do? Because right now, the popular bank in Nigeria just introduced an app called Leo, and Leo can do almost everything a teller would do, and people have lost their jobs. So there's that fear within the banking sector right now. So what can the banking guys, the staffs, the employees, the people that are working in the banking sector, what can they do eventually, when all the process of banking is being automated? What are they going to do?
Okay, so there will always be something left for them to do. So typically, think about it. If you have a driver,
yeah,
all right, your driver most likely has a a phone where he can browse today.
Okay.
And you see that I think the Technos of this world and all of them have done very well. The Oppo and all of them have done very well. So if you have got that, okay, the question you ask yourself is, what do people do on their mobile phones? Right? You can do a lot of learning. For example, I had a driver recently, and I realized that he had finished. He has an ordinary national diploma, OND, from the Polytechnic.
Yeah.
And he studied electronics engineering. All right. Interestingly, I studied that course in school. Yeah. So it's interesting for me, and I'm saying
that course in Lautech, right?
Yes, in Lautech. Yes. So all right. So. And he said to me that his last job didn't allow him any opportunity to read. You know, he wants to read. He's even bought some books, and he's not able to study. All right, and he's been with me for maybe about a month. So I said to myself, okay, I don't move around like that, all right? I don't travel so much like that. Okay, let's see how he plays out. He's been working with me. I'm here now. Okay, so maybe he's probably chilling. But the question is, every time I get back into the car, what I see more often than not is he's watching a video, maybe in Nollywood or something. All right. But this is the guy that said that his excuse at that point was that he was always traveling around. All right, but now you're not traveling around and you're not studying on your mobile phone, right? So, okay, so the real reality is that there will always be good excuses, all right, to do stuff, and we can't continue to give excuses. So people need to take their destinies into their hands.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that have translated from being a driver to being a clerk to grow through the ranks of organizations. So there's, first of all, there's not so much the organization can do. I agree that organizations can try a bit.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's still pretty much in the hands of those individuals to say, guys, this is what I want to do. So for example, and I know you've heard about these cases where a driver drives a particular man, and the man probably has 2 kids and the driver has 11 kids.
Yes.
All right, you probably have seen those scenarios.
Yeah.
So the person that pays your salary probably, so you'll see those scenarios keep playing out. All right, and I know that the circumstances are also not straightforward, but what I'm saying is organizations can try. There's a guy I know that our CEO has tried to make sure that from what you currently do today, you can translate. So he's paid for his he's paid for his WAEC. He paid for his WAEC. After he did his SSA exams, he struggled to come back to tell him that this is the result. He had to be the one asking. Now, such people who
didn't pass?
So he probably didn't pass as much. But whatever the case may be, right, you still needed to give feedback.
Yeah.
Somebody
paid for it.
Somebody is interested in pushing you forward. But honestly, I think we sit back a lot. We give a lot of excuses. We need to also learn to take our destinies into your hand. I'm sure if I ask you questions about your careers right now, you didn't just get here by someone just after your first degree in Lautech, right?
Yeah.
What happened? You probably maybe up until yesterday, maybe you were still taking a course online.
Definitely.
All right. I see you.
Up to today.
So I mean, when I go on the internet, I mean, I take courses too.
Yeah.
I read. We all learn. So these things are available. We will complain that maybe it's expensive data, but it's the same data that you use to watch videos
Instagram.
on Facebook, videos on so I think we just need to drop off some of these excuses, take our destinies into our hands,
right?
And then I mean, maybe organizations can do a bit more too. So there are more drivers. Even our drivers, if you look at it today in terms of quality, how many of our drivers can truly go abroad to drive? They probably will. We will probably take them a long journey. So if that's what I want to do, all right, then I will do everything. I asked my drivers that, guys, when was the last time you read the manual? What's the new rule?
What's the new rule?
Nobody thinks that
even about the car you're driving.
Sometimes I'm the one that observes that something is wrong. So what it tells you is how passionate are you with
and how committed are you
exactly to what you're doing today, right? Because that's what will determine the opportunity you have. Right?
Mr. Tope, the conversation cannot stop here. Obviously, there's so much to talk about around data analytics, around AI in the workplace, especially in Africa. The unemployment on the continent is quite alarming, and of course we have youth also that are not employable, some of them. Some that are employable but are no jobs. And of course, that's where we're also focusing on SMEs and startups to create new jobs. But of course, this conversation will continue. But before you go today, what is that one thing that you want to leave for our listeners?
Okay, so the reality is that new jobs are going to come.
Okay.
All right. I think we just need to prepare for them.
Okay.
Organizations have to do a lot more too. We need to care more for our employees.
Okay.
All right. But even the employees have to care more for themselves as well. So, but ultimately, new jobs are going to come.
Okay.
Are we ready for it? Are we going to be ready for it? Are we going to be able to take those opportunities when they show up? Will be the real deal, really.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
How can people contact Bluechip Technologies?
All right. So we have an email at info@bluechiptech.biz. All right. BIZ. And then you can go on our website, www.bluechiptech.biz. One of the things we've often tried to do recently is that we run a program called Business Intelligence Training Program.
Okay.
We go into universities to take students.
Okay.
We just finished one for this year, and we're realizing that we need to do more of it. Because, guess what? You need to build the talent pipeline. Organizations like ours will probably be the target when it comes to hiring people with data and AI skills. So we also need to build that pipeline. So if the banks are saying that they also want to begin that journey, they also need to build that pipeline. So for example, there's a bank today that is maybe one or number two or number one, number three in the country that we're helping to run a technology academy. They realize that, whether we like it or not, with people leaving for Canada, the US, UAE, and all those places to work, there's a talent gap. All right. How do we make sure that we are not stuck? All right. So what we run a technology academy for them where we train their new employees that have done STEM, maybe the science and technology and engineering and maths courses, first class and 2-1s mostly. They do the recruitment. We run those courses for them for about 6 weeks. Those talent pipelines are the ones they will probably use to augment what they have got. So, but the reality is that you need to first get into that class before you're able to train. So even for us education becomes very key for us. So, and luckily for us, we've been running this program for in excess of over 5 years. So we already have a master plan. But the truth is, we keep changing them because there are new technologies. So we keep doing those introductions. So all organizations have to be very flexible. We need to be very dynamic. We need to listen on to what's going on. We need to watch what the trends are. But most importantly, we need to empower our staff to be able to
keep training them.
It's you can't take it away, and people also have to take responsibility for their lives.
Yeah, right? Fantastic. Thank you so much. And of course, people can also get to know more about our training program on your website, www.bluechiptech.biz.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tope. And of course, there you have it, talking about the future of workplace beyond AI. And of course, data analytics is the foundation of automation and artificial intelligence and all that. And he has said that employees has to be able to take responsibility for their life. And of course, employers who has to in a way show the what he described as duty of care, for their employees. And from us, it's goodbye.
Listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.